Hey, everybody. Super excited for this chat today with Spirent, who are leading the charge in service assurance and testing at the center of what's happening with 5G Advanced and AI, and is really opening new doors for operators worldwide. Stephen, how are you?
Yeah, good. Really good to be here, Evan.
Well, great to see you again. Big fan of your work and the team's work at Spirent. Before we dive in, maybe introduce yourself. And you're doing so much at Spirent. How do you describe yourselves and the mission these days?
Yeah, so we're one of the big players in the test automation and assurance space, Evan, for the communication industry. So if you're a device manufacturer, a service provider, a cloud provider, anybody in that ecosystem, we're pretty much working with you to help test your solutions before you bring them to market, helping them assure them when they go operationally live to make sure they deliver on the performance and the quality. And more working with you these days to help make sure that you actually monetize those assets and generate a return or a revenue or an efficiency with them. Um, I've been, in the industry for over 20 25 years. Started off in the early days of 3G networks, building those networks with operators, then moved into the vendor environment, and now with the testing industry. So quite a long heritage in the telecom space.
Indeed, and I've known you for many years, maybe decade now, and I started off in 0G, which was paging as before we moved to 1G. So wow, do I feel old? But in any case, we're at 5G, probably the most exciting time in the industry with 5G Advanced. For those who may not be familiar, how does 5G Advanced go beyond the 5G that most of us know and experience on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so 5G advanced is, from the terminology perspective, it comes from the 3GPP, the standards body, starting from the release 18 release. But in reality, it's really the third phase or the third wave of 5G. We had the first wave was really the radio networks being put in place to give us enhanced speeds, better mobile broadband speeds, and that was called 5G non-standalone. And that's what most of us have today, globally. And then the second phase was something called standalone 5G, which really brought the core network part of it to, in addition to the radio. And that really was establishing the complete 5G architecture in place. And there's still a long process in place for many operators to get that rolled out today. I think there's only about 78 operators globally out of over 500 who've got to standalone today. But
Wow.
a leading set of operators are now moving to this third phase, which is 5G Advanced. And really, 5G Advanced is really about taking that architecture, which is now in place, that radio core architecture, and layering on the monetization capabilities, the application enablement. It's bringing capabilities like ultra reliable, low latency communication, really critical for a large number of manufacturers and industries. On demand and adaptive network slicing, really relevant for, again, for lots of consumer markets, but also for specific industries. Built-in AI as part of it as well. You're seeing edge federation, where you can actually host and bring capabilities down into public or private edge locations. Satellite connectivity, interactive extended reality, mission critical communications, you name it. There's a range of capabilities that are being put in place here for both enterprise and consumer markets. And it's really elevating 5G from that sort of faster mobile broadband that we all sort of see today to become more like a highly adaptive applications and services platform. And I think another key critical or a takeaway from it, Evan, is it's also turning that 5G core network, so not just the radio, the core network, into the real revenue engine. It's becoming a programmable control element to enable sort of premium services, allowing things like operators to monetize quality of service, allowing them to implement dynamic slices, edge implementations, data APIs. Basically, it's embedding the monetization capability inside the network itself. And I think that's the big change with 5G Advanced, moving now to that application and monetization phase.
Amazing. And yet, some operators are charging ahead with 5G Advanced, others still kind of sitting on the fence. So maybe why the wait and see approach, maybe not the best strategy, and why are some rushing ahead? There seems to be a big gulf between the two camps.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit to do with, where you are in your current sort of phase deployment. Have you got to standalone, which is a prerequisite for it, having the 5G
Mm,
core capabilities there. Do you have the relevant spectrum assets in place? Is the device deployment big enough in your markets that could support 5G, not only standalone, but advanced capabilities, with modems and chipsets, etc. So it depends where you are as the operator. But what I would say is we're seeing globally at the moment, there's 9 operators, big operators, who are already in the midst of now rolling out 5G advanced. And I think what's really interesting, the cost savings that they're getting in terms of the new efficiency capabilities and also the new revenue generating services that they've started to launch are suggesting that these operators that are moving to 5G advanced are gaining serious positive impact on their EBITDA. So I think that sort of new revenue capability, that new efficiency capability is real. And I would say it's highly likely that operators that are accelerating to 5G advanced rollouts, they're going to take first mover advantage, Evan. They're going to be able to bring desirable solutions for large industries, for railways, for immersive consumer and media types of applications, mission critical types of applications. And at the end of the day, those who get there first, they're going to secure these large enterprise contracts before any slower rivals even have the capabilities in place. So I think it has become a bit of a race, this one, who can come first.
Well, it's going to be exciting to watch. And while there's no blueprint or playbook to moving to 5G advanced, Spyron has some great content, educational, really informative content with a new ebook covering a dozen of the top features of 5G advanced. We'll have a link here, but what are some of the takeaways that operators should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, we put the book together and really as a strategic guide to help sort of our operator customers understand. I mean, not only what the 5G Advanced is, but also very much a focus on the importance of the 5G core, why it's important to move faster, but also how best to sort of focus on upgrading in a safe way to turn that into a business growth platform. And we look at, as you rightly said, that we look at 12 key capabilities or features that are in the book, that are in sort of the standards. Things like non-terrestrial networks, enhanced RedCap for industrial
Mm,
IoT, unmanned aerial vehicles to enable a low altitude and a drone economy, railway
wow.
communications, private networks, etc. Um, Really, these are the focus areas of how to take that advanced architecture and capabilities and turn them into monetizable assets. And what we focus on the book is how do they do that in a safe way? And that's sort of layering on top of that. What are the best ways to test and assure that so you can bring those to market as soon as possible? But also not sort of frighten the operators away and say, hey, you have to implement everything. It's to basically to give them a sort of a guidance. Hey, depending on where you think your opportunity in your market is, here's the capability maybe to start with, and here's to get that launched first. So you don't have to do everything all at once.
Makes sense. And I consider you guys the authority on service assurance and testing. So when it comes to 5G advanced, why is it so much more complicated than previous generations?
Um, it's like nearly all the 5 years. It introduces a myriad of new functions and
Mm,
capabilities. You're going to see a steady stream of updates coming in. In essence, it's a large menu because it's got to service so many different use cases for different industries, different sectors, and verticals. And that means, there's a lot of testing and assurance is going to have to be done during deployment and in the operational networks. And of course, obviously operators, and especially the ones we're working with today, they want to move fast to unlock that new value, but they need to temper that with that speed, with the need to be safe and the need to do it cost efficiently.
mm,
And of course, in that regard, Evan, the testing itself, it really needs to be three things. It needs to be automated, it needs to be incredibly intelligent, and it needs to be continuous to manage sort of all the sort of constituent parts that are changing all the time. And as part of that, and we discussed this in the ebook, there's really a number of new methodologies which are coming to the fore to help the operators, safely and cost efficiently bring 5G advanced faster to the market. You've got the use of digital twins for testing, which are using realistic network and traffic emulation, creating, in essence, emulated or simulated replicas of the network so you can
wow.
do really complex types of test scenarios. You've got automated continuous testing, making sure, as you've got all these release variants coming from different suppliers, you can simply, in an automated fashion, manage all the iterations and variations of testing you need to be done across the life cycle. And you have active assurance, in the live environment itself. being able to proactively validate that you're delivering on the performance, especially the SLAs for many of these use cases, identifying any issues or faults or root causes that may be impacting or degrading that performance, which could actually impact that monetization capability. And one of the key sort of, I would say, features which is really starting to stand out at the moment, Evan, is over the air testing coming to the
Mm,
fore. And this is becoming really important because many of the 5G advanced use cases, such as like testing a device connecting to a satellite, connecting devices on very fast moving rail transport, connecting in complex private network environments or mission critical environments. That end device itself, the handset, how it connects and communicates is a critical part of the puzzle. And this is where you're combining these digital twins, these emulated environments of the network with over the air testing using real handsets. And this provides a best
wow.
of both worlds. What you're doing is you're creating a hybrid approach, which you're mirroring what real subscribers and real device behavior is at these complex end locations and allowing you through the emulation then to be able to test all of those really difficult scenarios which are hard to produce, like how do you test the mobility between the satellites passing overhead and maybe you're moving
Mm,
on earth as well? How do you test scenarios on the railways? How do you create concurrent application uses where they're doing lots of different things from that end device? Like if you're a mission critical communication services where you're maybe doing voice, data, proximity, etc., all from that similar device. This enables you to move a lot faster. You can combine that real world environment with that emulated environment and really accelerate testing these features to get to market faster.
fantastic. And of course, AI is everywhere. I'm hearing anecdotes from operators. And where do you think most of them are on their AI journey from strategy to deployment? And I guess you're trying to help them along that journey. Are they having some incremental success?
I think so. To be fair, I think the telco. I mean, we work quite a bit with enterprises as well, and I would say the telcos are actually quite advanced, and they're seeing some
Mm,
good returns here. I mean, there's two clear sort of directions of flight that the telecom operators are on. One is using AI internally to optimize how their networks operate and run, how their
mm,
business processes run. So you're seeing a large sort of investment of working with vendors and suppliers to bring in AI capabilities in their radio equipment for better energy efficiency or spectral
mm.
efficiency, bringing it in the transport network infrastructures, the routers, the switches, so you can get better transport control of your network, so you can do intent-based routing. You're
Wow.
seeing it across how it's integrated automation, how they manage all their process. So you're seeing a lot of that internal use case of it. The secondary side of it, Evan, though, which is really starting to grow, which I find really exciting, is that they're also looking at how they can monetize AI through offering their network as a service for AI. So, for
Mm,
example, we're seeing a number of key areas where telcos are focusing. One is around offering GPU as a service, simply
wow.
realizing that their real estate, that distributed real estate across many geographies and countries, is highly valuable to potentially host GPUs and mini data centers in their central offices where they can be accessible to enterprises or government bodies to simply rent GPU as a service and get secure, high performance connectivity to it. You're also seeing them starting to focus up a layer above that, inferencing as a service. So not only do you get the GPU, the hardware, they'll also host bespoke models on top of that for you. Now, some of those are open source, some of them are designed specifically for the enterprise environments. On top of that, you're now also starting to see them create ecosystems or app stores where they're partnering with a number of AI application developers so that they can bring that capability as well. So when not only are you accessing the model, but you can have a suite of initial AI applications like AI vision, is one, translation services for businesses that you can just buy as an end-to-end package. And I think this could be highly lucrative opportunity for the telcos, being able to offer that combination of, hey, you can come to me to not only get access to the AI resource in terms of the processing, but I can give you access in a safe way to the models, to the applications, to enhanced connectivity, to specialized security for your needs. And I can also host it right out at the edges of our networks so they can meet your privacy, your low latency requirements, your security requirements. So I think telcos could be in a unique position here to sort of to potentially, have a major stake in the growing AI ecosystem.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's finally seeing telcos leverage new capabilities, including generative AI, not just in the network, but outside the network. We're seeing it in customer service, customer support, intelligent agents to help their customers. So I think end to end, it's going to have a huge impact. One of the dangers is that as networks become more AI driven, the engineers don't fully understand what's going on inside their network. We don't want to go back to the black box days of telecom where, it was, not really well understood how networks were operating. How do you, manage all that innovation while keeping visibility and insight and control?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, and I think this is where the test industry sort of is sort of leading the charge, and in essence we're being brought in to become sort of the governance or the trust mechanism,
Mm,
that independent resource for it, because in many cases that first wave is, as they bring AI in, whether it's embedded in vendor solutions or whether they're building their own AI infrastructure, it's about being able to test in a realistic way the efficacy, the security, the performance of that AI, and being able to
mm,
identify whether or not it's performing or behaving as they anticipate, and providing mechanisms that you can provide feedback loops that either reinforce the learning to say it's doing the right thing, or that identify any issues that are then being fed back into, allow it to retrain and re-optimize itself. And I think this is where the testing industry is starting to come in to help here at the moment. And we're doing this in a lot of scenarios. We worked quite closely with a number of operators as they were bringing in new AI-enabled security solutions, being able to actually test them. Is that AI capability, which is in the security, is it doing the right thing? Is it,
mm.
correctly identifying the traffic which may be an attack coming onto their networks, or is it letting it through? Is it performing better than what they used to do before to make it, is there a good, from a business case, cost efficiency case? I think the other thing, Evan, which is coming to the fore as well, is the use of synthetic data. Um, Again, this is one of the big challenges, that many industries have at the moment, is getting access. First of all, is getting access to data which is clean, and getting access to data which is publicly allowed to be used. You've got your customer opt-in on it. And in many cases, that can be quite difficult. And of course, the less data you have, good data you have, the higher the risk that the AI output is going to be poor or potentially impactful on the decisions it's making. Synthetic test data is a way that we're actually being used to help it. So the test industry, we generate huge volumes of
Mm.
synthetic data. We either have real world data we've captured, and we anonymize it and use it for running tests, or we create variants of that to run huge volumes of performance capacity testing. That's highly important to fill the gaps that a lot of the industry can't solve, and we're using that today. In essence, it's the golden copy data that meets and protects the personally identifiable information that allows them actually to help create better trained systems. And that's sort of something we're seeing more and more of today.
Wow, who would have thought networks as a source of really powerful insights and data? It's exciting times. You're very busy at Spirent. What are you excited about as we head into the fall season with industry events and get-togethers and standards bodies meetings? What's on your radar?
Yeah, I mean, there's the end of year. There's always a lot of good big events coming up. Obviously, the Mobile World Congress, most famous for its Barcelona event, it's going to be in the US again. This year's Las Vegas. We'll be there at the show. Very much focusing on how the US carriers are
Mm,
starting to move towards 5G advanced, but also around AI. But also engaging at another Mobile World Congress event down in Doha, in Qatar, which is a huge regional event at the moment, because
mm.
interestingly, the Middle East is becoming sort of one of the hotbeds for moving faster to 5G advanced and sovereign AI initiatives, with a big focus there. So we'll be there as well, sort of working with a number of our customers and regional partners, supporting them at those events.
Brilliant. Well, I can't wait to see you again in person, as always. And thanks so much for sharing just a bit of the journey. And check out the ebook, everyone. Really great content. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ed.
All right.